Hi everybody, Jo here. Lovely to have your company again. Thank you for joining me. Put the kettle on, grab your brew. It's time for us to have some crafty time together. And what I thought we'd do today is create something similar to this design. Two reasons really. One, it's coming up here in the UK to Father's Day. So I thought this is a nice card that could be used for a masculine type card, because often we do a lot of florals, so it's nice to do a masculine type design. And I've purposely left an area here, and I'm actually going to put, I've got some lovely little tiles with letters on, and I'm going to put Dad there. So that's one reason. The other reason is I think you might find that Lavinia stamps are on the craft store on Friday, and there may be some of these stamps appearing on the show, so watch out for that, why don't you? And I'm thinking we could have a play with these. So let's get started. Now what I'm using today is I'm going to use the watercolour card from Lavinia. Now I've got to be honest, if you haven't tried the watercolour card, I find it absolutely brilliant. It's such a lovely, obviously it takes water well, but it's smooth so we can stamp on it. And that's very important, especially if you're starting out. Now, I'm going to come at this a different way. Now, quite often when we're crafting, we make the background first, don't we? And then we do our stamping. Now, for me, I'm going to come this a different way, and it's just a little way I've got used to because of doing a lot of workshops and teaching. This is just the way, for me, that I teach this technique. I'm not saying it's right at all and the others are wrong. It's just a different approach. So, and the reason I'm going to do this, I'm going to do my stamping first. So I'll start stamping while I carry on talking. You know what I'm like. So the first stamp I'm going to use is this one here, the tree branch. Now remember, obviously your acetate, especially with it being printed, is so useful for when you're looking at your placings. I mean, don't forget this tree branch look makes a lovely tree if you stamp it like that. Now again, for stamping, me being me, I have an old craft magazine and some copy of paper. I just find it really helps me when I'm doing my stamping. Just because, to be honest, I've always struggled with stamping. I blame it on my size. I blame it because I'm little. So I'm using the black VersaFine Clair, the Nocturne. Nice light tapping. Now again, me being me, I always catch the edges. So I'm just going to wipe that off. You know, we all have these little quirks, and I think as long as you're happy with what you do in the end result, you know, we all have different ways. It's like baking, isn't it? Lots of people have different ways of following different recipes. So I'm going to stamp first. And now this is beautiful for sitting the owls and various birds on. We're not going to sit our owl on it today, but it is such a versatile. I love the fact that it's bare, almost the naked branch, because then we can add to it. And when you think we've got some fantastic pound stamps that we can add, so obviously we can alter the season of this. It's nice. And again, let the ink soak in. It's always important not to be too quick to lift that block off. I'm going to add a few of these just round. And again, so we'll have another one coming from the top here. And I'm just going to build up my scene in this corner. Now do remember with these blocks, they are flexible, so you can flex them. And we'll have another one at the top, so I only need that little bit. I have to think then which bit I'm inking up. If all else fails, you can ink the whole stamp up, but and then let's think, do we want just a little here? Have we got, oh yeah, we can do that bit. So again, just ink up. So how are you keeping? I hope you're doing okay. I hope you're keeping well. various parts of the world were sort of coming out of lockdown, and then other parts are going back in, aren't they? I believe in Australia you've gone back, certain parts have gone back in for 7 days. It is difficult, but I think that's where crafting can just keep us all going and really help. So I'm happy with that. So that's my basis of the of my branch. So I'm going to put my branch to one side, and I'm actually going to do my my owl next. Now this one is, I think it's Maylin. As you know, I'm not very good at pronouncing, so I'm really sorry, Tracy, if I've not got the pronunciation, but it's actually spelt Maylin. I'll pretend it's a Welsh name, and then I've got a bit of an excuse if I haven't pronounced it properly. And again, nice light tapping. And we'll put him, just check, if ever you're not sure if you've got everything covered in ink, look, just check it in the light, and I can see a bit there that I've missed. Don't know how. Right, and we're going to put him, we've got a bit of a gap there, look, that's perfect for his wing. Now, he's a silhouette, so obviously you've got more ink on there. So it is worth just letting your silhouette stamps just sit for that little bit longer on the card, just to let all that ink soak in. It's not the end of the world if we've missed a little bit, if we didn't put enough ink on. Sorry, excuse me. It really isn't. I mean, I think when we start off, we expect everything to be so perfect. But the beauty of it is, you know, as long as you're enjoying what you're stamping. I mean, there's lots of hints and tips of how to make things, you know, like not lifting your stamp up too quickly. But just enjoy what you're doing. Right, so that's him stamped. And the last little thing, I'm just going to stamp some of these little small dwellings. Now, these are so cute, and I just want them in the bottom down here. So then we'll get on to add some leaves. So we'll just add that one there. Right, I've got another little block somewhere. So I could put the little one on. Or would help if I put it on straight, wouldn't it? Come on, girl, concentrate. Don't know about you, but sometimes that's the thing. I almost try and do things in a rush. And that's when often I don't put enough ink on, and then it doesn't stamp correctly. And I think, oh, why did I rush? Now with the houses, I just want to alter the height. And we just want a nice odd number. So I don't want it to look too... I think actually I'll put one, yes, a taller one there coming off the page. I could have put one this side, but I'm going to blend round the edge. That'll probably go into the blending. I like that sort of line there. Now we don't want to overcook it. We don't want any pizzas, do we? Now, although that's an even number, that'll probably go with my blending, so you're probably going to see those, so I'm going to leave that there. And on now to adding some. Now I'm going to use mini leaf one, but I'm sure you've got, there's so many different leaves. And what I'm going to do is I do like when I'm doing florals or leaves to use 2 different colours, and I just think it adds, if I bring the finished card in, it just adds to the whole sort of feel of the design. So I'm going to start with, and I've got Monarch. And what's the beauty of this, look, you can actually put, so I'm thinking, what I will do first actually is just turn it over, give it a bit of a blot, just so that I don't put my arm across and get ink on my arm and then, but if we look, we can actually put it like the leaves are growing out of these bare branches here. And we're just going to build up. And again, for me, I just find it easier to turn my work and just might have one coming down there. Now often, you know, crafters will ask, how do you know how many leaves to add? Basically, you want it to look a nice design, but don't overcook it. I love using the phrase pizzas. You know, we don't want any pizzas where it's really heavy with leaves and you can't see. I nearly said you can't see the wood for the trees. You want it to be a nice design as well, nicely flowing. So we want quite a few leaves, but not over the top. And also I need to be mindful, I'm going to add some in black. So I'll just check my spacing. So I've got nice, could do with something there, couldn't I? And often just turn it. So obviously I've got a space there. It's looking at a bit sparse, so we're all right yet. We can keep cooking it. So if we add that one there. And then that there, that's building up nicely. Frames it as well. So again, to think of the periphery, not just the middle of the design. Right, I think I need something there. And often if you're not sure, you know, a little tip is to take a photograph on your iPad or your phone and then have a look. That just gives you an idea. One more, and then I'm going to move on to the black. Sometimes if I think I've finished a card but I'm not sure, I will stop, take a picture, go away, have a cup of tea, biscuit, any excuse really for a brew and a biscuit, and then come back and look at it. And it's quite good, you almost come back with new eyes and it just gives you a better idea. Now I'm thinking one just coming off that there. Yeah, so that fills that space without, we've got space there. And we want to keep the integrity. I want to keep that branch. I want to still see that lovely branch. So just maybe one there. Again, that's a nice flow. We need something here, don't we? Just to finish off this end, maybe just off the page there. And maybe just a little in that corner. You probably won't see that, but I'm happy with, oh, just at the top. I always do that. I'm happy with that. Oh no, just a bit more. Last one there. I don't want to overcook it. Right, that's definitely it. So again, I'm just going to blot that. And what I'm going to do is just pop my heat tool over it, just to check that that ink's dry. Now again, it is a permanent ink, but it is a slow drying ink. So I just want to check that it's nice and dry before we do our next stage. And again, I'm just heating from the back, just helps keep the watercolour card nice and flat. Right, so that should be dry. Now what we're going to do next, we're going to add the background. As I say, so it might be in reverse to how you've always done things. And I'm going to use some Elements ink pads. And first of all, I've got Blue Lagoon, and I'm just going to put it on my craft mat. You can buy palettes to do this, but I've got to be honest, my craft mat's here, so I just use what's here. This is Merlot. Always need a bit of Merlot, don't you? And some graphite. Now I've got a water pot on my table. And the first thing I do when I come in my craft room every day is I fill my water pot with water and then I add some brushes. I always have my fan brush, a nice fine brush, and today I'm using a gold liner 1-inch brush. But do excuse the way it looks because it's been used for gesso, all sorts of things over the years. And I'm just going to add a bit of water. And also, important thing, I need a piece of copy paper in my hand, tissue, kitchen roll in my hand, ready. And the first thing, what I'm going to do, sorry, excuse me, this naughty throat of mine, you know, it's still not 100%, but I know it's better than it was. Now, we're going to add some water because we're going to use a wet on wet technique. Now you're all right, and this is why it was important to dry so we don't smudge that ink. But because that's permanent ink, we can now add water. We can add our background and our dye-based ink. So these mix with water, look, and we can add our background. So I'm just going to put some blue randomly, and then I'm going to add some of this lovely Merlot colour at the top here, and then at the bottom. And the reason I've got my cloth is I just want to dry my brush in between. I'm going to add some of the grey I want it quite grey at the bottom. And because it's wet on wet, you'll see how it reacts. And I just think this is a lovely way, especially if you're a beginner, of how to do a sky. Because I've got to be honest, it's, well, it's perfect for me because it's no skill required, look. So I'm just going to keep working it. I don't want to over wet it. But I must admit, I love the way that sky is. In fact, I'm quite happy with that. I might just get my fan brush. On my original, I added, so you see all these lovely, this is just water splats. But I quite like this sky. So again, you know, just go with, we'll add a few, but I don't want to add too many because I do like that sky. Now, again, the flying owl cries out for the moon, but because I like the sky, I'm not going to add the moon at all. In fact, I'm happy with that. Now, I've got to be honest, look at that. Normally, I would smoosh another piece of card to use that ink. But obviously, today we're just going to give it a bit of a wipe. Now, as I say, how quick was that? I know we have got some lovely new crafters joining us, and I think it's so important to just show you that you don't need a lot of skill to create these backgrounds. I mean, obviously we have got some fine artists amongst us who do fabulous things and take a lot of time. I'm afraid I'm not one of those. I'm just a get it on there sort of girl. Now, again, at home, you could leave this to dry naturally. But because we're on here and I want to do a little bit more with this, I'm just going to use my heat tool. Just because I want to blend some ink around the edge. But you know what, you could actually leave it like that and just put it on some black card. I mean, think of all the scenes that you could do and introduce that sky. So again, when you heat from the front, always go to the back and heat from the back. There we go. And again, the card, look at that, only slightly buckled, very slightly, and considering the amount of water I threw on there. As I say, you could leave this as it is, but I just want to blend a little bit of ink round the edges. So I'm going to go for the Merlot. And again, just be mindful because I've got some ink on my hand. I don't want to spoil this design. So let's cover this bit up. I always ink up on the corners because I want the corners darker. I want this quite moody in the corners. So I'm going to go round again, ink up on the corner. And I'm probably coming in about a centimetre or so. But again, you can vary depending on how much you want to come in. And then just for a little bit of extra, I'm going to come in with the graphite. So I'm just going to wipe up, use my Inky Binky, and then come in with the graphite. And I'm not going to come in as far. I love to use two colours. I just find it blends around that edge. It probably won't show up as much on screen, but believe you me, when you actually see the finished design in the flesh, just adding this graphite to the edge. So I'm not inking up as far. I'm probably doing this, say, 1/2 centimetre, so half as far. But for me, it just helps to, can you see that? Just gives that lovely moodiness. Now what I'm going to do, actually, I'm just going to add a little bit more graphite just here because I want it to be quite moody, sort of. We've got a bit of that morning mist down here, just so those houses are just in that darker area. Yeah. Again, clean you. I'm afraid I am one of these. I just think the cleaner you keep your area, the less chance you've got of putting marks on your design. So, last little thing, and what I'm going to do is come in with a couple of chalk pastel pencils. Now I'm going to use my white. I don't want to use a white gel pen on this or a white Posca. Often we use them, but I just feel it would be very harsh for this. And I just want something a little bit softer. So I'm just going to use, and again, because these are a pastel, I'm just going to smudge them. That does two things. It fixes them and it takes away any residue. And that for me is just almost a softer highlight. And what I'm going to do with my blue, because I've got the blue in the sky, and almost like often sort of first thing in the morning or last thing at night, a lot of the shadows take on the colour tones, don't they, of the sky. So I'm just going to enhance that and add a bit of blue in my shadowing. And I don't know if you can see that. And it just almost mimics that blue that I've got in that sky. Now, I'm not sure whether this is a sunrise or a sunset, or I think it's probably just early evening. And I'm just going to add some white, and then also I'm going to come in with a bit of the blue and just add almost like that blue hue just to some of these florals. So it's almost highlights, but just giving that lovely misty chalkiness that these give. So it's not obviously white. And then just a little bit of the blue, just to see. I don't want to overdo it, but often these are the little details that they don't shout out at you when you first see the design, but when you look closely into it, and that's what you want people to do when you send your cards. You want the recipient to look closely into it and go, oh, how did you do that? Now on the houses again, look, we'd just have a little bit, we'd just catch these roofs, wouldn't we, and just the chimney. So again, let's come in with just a hint of the blue and smudge it. And then I just want to add just here at the bottom, just so I've got that hint of that there's something there. It could be a road, a field, just that hint. And that, my friends, is all I'm going to do to that. I really don't think it needs any more. Well, I hope you've enjoyed that. My main thing is just showing you a different way of doing your work, that stamping and then adding the background. And to be honest, it's great fun because you just never know what you're going to get. And I do think at the minute we all need some fun in our crafting, don't we? Well, I enjoyed it anyway. I hope you did too. And as I say, quite different look. This one's more sparkly. I mean, I could even add a little bit of glitter to this, but again, I thought mail card, we'd hang off the glitter. But this, maybe this is at night and then this is the following morning. Yeah, maybe my owl's going to bed here and he's just getting up here. What do you think? I'd love to know what you think. I'd love to know how you find. Have a go with a watercolour card. Honestly, it's fabulous. Look at that, so flat, absolutely fabulous. And you saw the amount of water I flicked at that. So, you take care, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me. I'll pop in again next week for another catch-up. Love and hugs. Bye for now.